Hi, Nigel. How great to see that you called yet another press conference on a Monday, which reminds me, the grooming gang survivors that you misrepresented in last week's press conference have now been waiting 6 days for a public apology. I thought you were all about protecting the survivors and getting justice for them. So I'm now beginning to think that maybe you didn't just misrepresent them, that the whole press conference was disingenuous. Can I say, I love this video, a day in the life of a Clacton MP. And it reminded me how much I missed the original UK series of The Office. I thought it was lovely that you wrote to all the children in your constituency to ask them to once again submit for the Christmas card that you're going to send out this year. Although the theme confused me a little bit. I would have thought it would have been like Christmas in Clacton, but I understand you probably wouldn't know what that looked like. So you asked them to do a scene of winter and Big Ben. You went down to the pier. Well, let's face it, is where you often go because it's a lovely photo op for you, isn't it? Interesting to see you at a school, given how much you slag off teachers and education, to be fair. But it's like you suddenly noticed that this school needs to be rebuilt because it was part of the rack scandal. You suggested that maybe you could try to help the school. And I guess that's right. That is literally your job to do that, to represent them in Parliament. I loved how many interviews were in this video. I don't actually know whether any of those videos were to do with Clacton, but it was nice to see you at work. A bit like this reform councillor, actually, who had been very busy filling in potholes in Derbyshire. The only thing is, it would appear that in her video where she was filling in the holes, she completely misrepresented how many holes there were to fill. But who cares about details, Nigel? Not you, that's for sure. In fact, your councillors are doing really well all round, it would seem. This one had a vote of no confidence when they decided to dismiss the call to build a new school in the area. They could have learned a lesson from boy George Finch down in Warwickshire. Remember when he said, of course children can walk 5 miles to school every day? Building new schools, what are they like? Sorry to hear that you're under investigation in Parliament. Maybe they did get a bit pissed off about the fact that you didn't declare anything from May until really recently. It's like it's caught up with you, isn't it? Although quite telling as well to see James McMurdoch on the list as well under kind of dodgy dealings. Whilst of course he's no longer a Reform MP, he was somebody that you brought into Parliament, so I guess he learned from the best. This councillor apologised for some of their social media posts. They said they didn't really realise how the posts could be interpreted. I thought there was only one way to interpret Islamophobia, but what do I know? But anyway, back to this. Fascinating that you are standing on a platform whereby we vote for MPs, but you're not actually going to use them in government. Also fascinating that members of the cult, with an L, seem fine with this. There again, they're also fine when you keep saying Britain's broken economy, even though you helped break it. That said, you do appear to be playing with a handful of jokers at the moment. Dr. David Bullshit, who's been taking advice from Dr. Azim Malhotra, who of course is now under investigation from the GMC. Lee Anderson, who of course had his own car crash in his own press conference last week when he went from being completely ableist, put the disabled in those 3-wheelers that weren't safe, right through to, yeah, of course I used to screw the system a little bit, but it's all okay now. Deputy Dick, who, let's face it, is just a bit of a sap. As soon as the phone rings, he doesn't know which position he's going to end up in. Not because it's a bit of a dirty phone call, but basically because you change your mind. Is he the leader? Is he the chairman? Deputy Dick doesn't mind. He'll do anything, won't he? Freddy Krueger's brother. And Zia, who gives your ego a run for your money and who literally just bought his way into the top table of reform and somehow keeps being on our media. Speaking of media, I love how Christopher Hope from GB News, the station that you're actually a presenter on and you own shares in, I love how he's always so impressed that you don't have any notes. It's hard to write down bullshit though, isn't it? You can just keep spewing it out. It's like verbal diarrhea. Going back to this photo though, no Sarah Puchin. That's odd, isn't it? Because it's not like she's controversial at all. I thought this was a great selling point for young people to work for you. The young people that are already struggling because of the cost of living and stuff. You're going to reduce the minimum wage. It's a brave move. I don't know many politicians that would be so stupid as to do that. So congratulations on that one. And blow me down with a feather. It turns out all the tax cuts that everybody said just didn't add up. You've decided not to do them now for a little while. And you've returned to an old favourite. You've said it was just an aspiration. I thought it was just clickbait and a lie to get people to vote for you. You love an aspiration though. Remember when you told the people of Port Talbot, when you wanted them to vote for you, that you were going to reopen the steelworks? That turned out to be an aspiration. Or how about when you told the same people that you were going to reopen the coal mines? That turned out to be an aspiration. You're no longer going to scrap the 2-child benefit cap. That was an aspiration. But you might do something for British nationals that you deem fit to get that help. Your inverted education snobbery came to the fore again when you really criticised the fact that we have human rights lawyers as people in positions of authority in government. Which reminds me, the general Joe public that aren't the human rights lawyers, they're a little bit concerned about the fact that you're trying to strip back our human rights. In fact, it was quite an impressive group of people that got together to point out that if you had your way and you did take us out of the European Convention of Human Rights, things like Grenville, Hillsborough, all of that sort of stuff would never actually get investigated because the government would have nobody to hold them to account. Which made me think maybe human rights lawyers were quite useful. You know, people that genuinely did look after the people in the country. For example, your plan to slash the public services pension. Like, that could be something that the European Convention of Human Rights could help out with, couldn't it? Like, suddenly penalising people that have paid into a pension or are expecting a pension after a certain amount of years' service. Anyway, suffice it to say, once again, the press conference was a car crash. In fact, even the Daily Express has called you a fantasist now. I mean, to be fair, I find it quite ironic that you're talking about alarm clock Britain, you know, the regular working class man or woman that goes out to do an honest day's graft. When actually there was more in that press conference to benefit your rich friends. In fact, the Express summed it up really quite nicely, that you're sort of hoping that the rich people will sprinkle their prosperity over the poor. Given how little you've given back to Clacton, I don't think that's going to work as a plan. Anyway, I won't keep you. Don't forget to do that apology, as you were.